Let's Play video series focused on solitaire board games. I am your host, Milgaus, and this is my very first ever Let's Play video series. I'm very excited. I think I've chosen a phenomenal game, which is Dawn of the Zeds. But the purpose of this video series is to provide a Let's Play experience for fantastic solitaire board games such as this one. I feel like there's a lot of stigma about solitaire board gaming and that it's somehow less than multiplayer board gaming or a sad and pathetic way to spend your time. However, many gamers will not think twice about playing a single-player video game. And I think that they would find that some of these expertly designed solitaire-focused board games can provide a single-player experience that is as good, if not better, than most single-player video games. With that, a couple of objectives that I have for this series. First is I want to provide as good of a viewing experience as I can. I want to be very focused and tight on the board. There are a number of side trackers for this game and cards and your hero cards, but I really want to allow you a full frame view of the board as much as possible, and we'll be providing all the other ancillary information for you on screen. So hopefully that'll work out and keep the experience as high as possible. Second, I will also likely get some rules wrong. This game is not what I would call fiddly, but it does have a lot of things that you need to remember. You need to remember to increase the infection level. You've got supplies to keep track of. You've got ammo to keep track of. You've got your actions to take care of, your research level. So there's a lot of little things that you need to remember to take care of. Move something up now, move something down now, don't move something. I will do my best to not miss anything. If I do so, let me know. I'm not going to go out of my mind trying to correct any errors, but you know, obviously we want to make this as accurate and as clean of a playthrough as we can. Last thing I want to cover is my intention is not really to make this a how to play series, but more of a let's play series. I will be explaining the rules as we run into them and encounter them, so that if you're new to the game or haven't played the game for a while, you'll be able to keep track of what's going on. But you know, I really feel that just by watching the game progress, you'll understand how it's played. It is pretty straightforward. So I will be explaining things, but not to the extent that you would get from a complete walkthrough or a complete training type of video. So I've gotten the game mostly set up. The main setup of the game is actually putting together the event deck, which is a deck of, I don't know, it's 40-some plus cards that we have to wade our way through in order to be successful. And every one of these cards has some new and interesting way to make your life miserable. So that is the event deck. And then we also have the fate deck, which is another set of cards that we will use to determine locations for things, and it also has other ways that it will pummel us into the ground. So this is the town of Farmingdale. We have the town center in the middle of the board, and then we have essentially 5 sections of towns. We have the forest, we have the mountains, we have the highway, we have the suburbs, and we have the tunnel. And essentially these are all tracks that lead into the town center. Our goal is to try to survive through this event deck and not let any zombies get into our town center. And there's going to be all sorts of crazy stuff that happens to keep us from that goal. We're going to have nuclear power plants blowing up, we're going to have bridges falling, we're going to have mad scientists appearing. There are 3 main resources in the game that we're going to need to manage. The first is our supplies, and those are going to be used for all sorts of different things. They're going to be used for making barricades that we're going to build to try to keep out the zombies. We're going to use them to aid in upping our research level, which I'll talk about in a moment. We're going to consume them to help feed our civilian military that's going to be out there trying to defeat zombies. And we're going to reduce our supplies simply when the cards tell us, because horrible things are going to happen. We've also got ammunition. So our hero units, like Mr. Johnson here, who has a gun, are going to be very reliant on ammunition. And ammunition is very scarce. It allows us to be able to shoot and kill zombies without having to be directly in hand-to-hand combat with them. A very big component to this game, very difficult to get, very difficult to hold on to. The last thing, one of the last resources is our research level. We're going to simply try to get smarter. And by getting smarter, we're going to be able to build all sorts of neat things like super weapons, and we're going to be able to heal our armies easier, and then also up our victory conditions toward the end of the game. When I first started playing this game, I thought it was all about fighting and ammo and shooting. I soon learned that really there is no component of this game that you do not have to worry about. As research feels like you're not doing anything to stop the zombie invasion, researching up and building that super weapon toward the later game is absolutely critical to survival. We've also got a number of other things that we're going to have to manage, like our infection level, the actions that we take, our hospital, our refugees, our refugee camp, a number of different things. We'll talk about them as we come up. Again, there is a number of off-board trackers. I'll show you the main one here that's going to keep track of all this stuff for us. We're going to use the power of technology and put it all here. So we're going to have to set up the board, but in a moment. The first thing we need to do is actually determine our starting resources. And we do that by rolling some dice. So first we're going to roll for our supplies. We do that by rolling 2d6s. Hey, that's not too bad. We'll take it. We're going to start with 9 supplies. Now we're going to roll for ammo. We use a single d6, and we really just, an average roll would be perfectly fine. Oh, and 5 ammo. That is an absolutely fantastic result. So we are starting with 5 ammo and 9 supplies. Now the next thing we want to do is to pick our starting heroes. And there are a number of different heroes from which to choose from. The first time I played the game, I just took all of the combat guys. That just seems like that's a good idea. You will find that if you don't have a good forager in your group, or more than one, somebody that can help get you more ammo, can get you more supplies. These starting ammunition and supplies that we got, while great to start the game with, they will be gone in no time. So there really is no one useless in these heroes. Even, the professor and the doctor, who at first I was like, yeah, how are they killing anybody? But their ability to research, their ability to heal is almost as critical as the fighting units that are in the game. So there really is no bad units. So the rules say that we get first, we can pick any civilian of our choice. I'm going to choose Deputy Schmidt. Then the instructions say that we randomly draw 3 from the deck. Now, I'm going to modify that with a little bit of a house rule, and I'm going to say I get to draw 4 and choose 3. I'm still new enough to this game where I don't want to get stuck with a combination that just simply doesn't work. So we'll pull 2 out from here, 1 there, 1 there. Let's see who we got. All right, we got Pickles, the dog, very good at foraging. We've got the mayor, never played with him. We've got Colonel Kingman, and we've got Doc Seaver. I would have liked to have someone that was a little better at research, but I think I'm going to take Pickles, I'm going to take the Colonel, and I got to choose between the Doctor and Mayor Hernandez. All right, just because I've never taken him before, I'm going to take the Mayor. We're going to leave the Doctor behind. Now, another nice thing in this game is that there will be new heroes that will show up during our game. So hopefully we'll be able to see some of the other heroes as they come out. Deputy Schmidt, Pickles, Colonel Kingman, Mayor Hernandez. Somebody's gonna die. Next thing we need to do is to get the board set up. There's going to be a starting zombie in every one of these tracks, every one of these 5 tracks. We're going to have our civilian units that are going to be camped out with some villagers in the towns. We're going to get our heroes that are all going to be located in the town center. So let's get that set up. All right, first looking at the suburbs track, we've got a strength 6 zombie. That's about in the middle. We've got 2 sets of civilian armies that are, one is in the town of East Irick and the other's in the town of Beauville. You'll notice that they're flipped upside down. That means that they feel they can hold the village, that they don't need to retreat, and so they're basically going to wait until it's demonstrated to them that the zombies are a real threat before they get activated and are then able to move. Also, the villagers, the townspeople, they're not going anywhere. They're not leaving their homes. They will soon find out that's a very bad idea. Now, let's move on up here to the forest track. Forest track is a strength 7 zombie. That's definitely something to be concerned about. We only have one village in this track, which is St. Thomas. A civilian army of strength 2, which is on definitely the weaker side, and we've got some stubborn villagers. Now let's jumping over looking at the mountain track. Mountain track is a strength 5 zombie in that middle range. And then another key thing in the mountain track is the mine. The mine is really critical because that is one of the places that you can forage for ammunition. And as we know that ammunition is going to be very key in this game, there's really only 3 places to get ammunition. The first is in the mine, the second is in the town center, and the third is at the security guard outpost where our green diamond security guards are at. And it is much easier to get it at the security guard post or the mine, but there is a chance you can get it at the town center as well. Highway track, we've got a strength 6 zombie, we've got one village, which is Ingberg, and we've got a 3 strength civilian, which is in the medium category. Our civilian armies are strength 2 at the weakest, 3 in the middle, and then we have 1 strength 4 civilian that's actually back here at our town center. So looking at our town center, we've got all of our 4 heroes. We've got Colonel Kingman, we've got Pickles the dog, we've got Mayor Hernandez, and we've got Deputy Schmidt. Oh, excuse me, I didn't want Deputy Schmidt, I wanted Sheriff Hunt. Yeah, that's what I meant to pick for my first hero. Sheriff Hunt. So again, that is our home base. That is where we are trying to keep all of the zombies from getting up these tracks and getting into. Now, if we look at the tunnels, we only have 1 zombie here, which is a strength 9 zombie. The tunnels have a lot of interesting rules for movement. The zombies can get lost. There are these little hidden entrance ways where they can jump to other tracks. We'll look at those when they come up. And then we've got 2 ultra elite security forces that are here. One is a strength 4 and one is a strength 3. They're our green diamond security forces. Now, unfortunately, we randomly placed these down. It's nicer to have the strength 4 one here and the strength 3 one there, but we'll deal with that later. Let's get into our very first turn. Our event card for turn number 1 is a stocked barn is discovered. Doesn't sound too horrible. So the very first thing we're going to do on each of these event cards is we're going to resolve them from top to bottom, and we're simply going to do exactly what the different line items say. And there's a section of rules for each one of these items, and we'll go through them a little more in detail through these first few turns, and then the turns will start to go quite a bit faster after that. So the first thing we need to resolve is the RRR Movement. And what that stands for is Raiders, Raiders, Rangers, and Refugees. So later in the game we might have Raiders that show up, and if you've ever seen, say, the original Dawn of the Dead, these are the motorcycle gang that tries to bust into your town and take all of your shit. That will likely come out later in the game. For now, we don't have any. We also don't have any Rangers. This is an elite fighting unit that can show up later in the game. They are phenomenal to have. We want them to come out hopefully as soon as possible, but we don't have them currently on the map. And we also don't have any refugees. Now, villagers will turn into refugees once they finally realize by usually watching their town's civilian army get eaten that they should probably run away. They'll become refugees and start to try to flee toward our town center. RRR Movement, we don't have anything to do there, so we move on to the Outbreak phase. Now, the Outbreak says it occurs on a 6+. So we check our Outbreak. Our Outbreak is a nice and healthy and sanitary 0, so we don't need to do anything for the Outbreak phase. The Outbreak phase is where more zombies are going to get populated onto the board. And there's rules about where those zombies come out. Basically, Outbreak bad, Infection bad. Next, we're going to look at the Consume Supplies line. It simply says no. That means it is not forcing us to consume any of our precious supplies this turn, which is a good thing. Next, we move on to the Zeds Phase. This is when the zombies get to do their thing. As we see, there's a little man icon, which is an indication of the forest track. So the Zeds on the forest track are going to get to move. Now, they simply advance down this trail trying to get to the town center. So our zombies are going to move from the start position into the trail. And they didn't encounter anything to kill or eat, so that is going to be the extent of their turn. Next, we move on to the actions phase, and you'll see there's a number 4. That means that we're going to get 4 actions to use, which is a good number. It's the most in the game. You either get 1, 2, 3, or 4, and actually sometimes 0. And there's a black circle around it. So whenever anything has a black circle around it, that is when we need to initiate the event that goes along with this event card. So there's a black circle around the 4. We read the event. It says, if a friendly unit ends the action phase in the farm space, roll 1 die and increase your supply points by that amount. So that's great. We just need to get someone to the farm, and at the end of all of our actions, we'll be able to loot the farm from this barn that we discovered, and we'll get some more supplies. We can never have too many supplies. One of the reasons I chose Sheriff Hunt as the hero that I could choose is he does 2 things really well. The first is he has a long range ability. So normally heroes and armies can only shoot a zombie who's in the space next to them. If you're in 1, you can shoot to 2, 3 into 4, etc., etc. He has a long range ability that allows him to shoot 2 spaces. That's really key so that you can stay as far away from those zombies as possible. Shoot them from a safe distance, even though sometimes being 2 away is still not safe, as I'm sure we'll see. But that's the first thing he does really well, is that long range shot. The next thing that he's able to do is he has a special ability called, what's it called? It's called Leadership. And what he can do is once a turn, he can basically scream at the civilians and give them 1 free action, basically tell them to do something. And it doesn't cost us 1 of those action points to be able to do. And why that is great is that actions are so precious, and you always need to forage, but you never want to because you got stuff to kill. So I like him because I basically feel like I can forage once for free with him every turn, as long as he is in the same space or an adjacent space as one of our civilian units. For my free action, I'm going to use Sheriff Hunt, and he is going to command our civilians to scrounge in the town center and look for some supplies. So we do that by rolling a d6. We consult a forage table, which is on one of the side handouts. And basically for the town center, if we would have rolled a 4 or a 5, we would have received 1 supply. And if we would have rolled a 6, we would have received 1 supply or 1 ammo. So again, ammo is harder to find than supplies. But since we rolled a 1, we get nothing. Right, for my 4th action, I'm going to forage with Pickles. Now, he's our dog in the town center. Now, Pickles has an ability. Since he is a canine, he gets to roll 2 dice when he forages. And what that allows him to do is basically take the best one. So we're going to forage in the town center. Now, we also have Mayor Hernandez. And Mayor Hernandez lets us add a 1 to all forage rolls. So we'll take our best 1, we get a 5, Pickles found us a supply, putting us up to 10 supplies. With 3 actions left, and now I want to get someone to the farm by the end of the turn so that we can discover that barn. And since I really don't quite yet know where all the shit's going to go down, you know, we can look over here to the mountain track. We've got 1 guy that's advanced here. The strongest zombie was down here in the tunnels. You know, I really don't know where to deploy a lot of energy yet. And so when in doubt, I think I'm just going to forage. So I'm going to spend my out of my remaining 3 actions, I'm going to spend 2 more actions and forage with Pickles and the Mayor. 3rd action, nice. We are going to take an ammunition, for our ammunition to be up to 6. Next forage, we're going to take another ammunition to be up to 7. And now for our final and 4th action, we're going to move Pickles over to the farm. And later in the game, if Pickles gets killed, we will tell all of the small children of Farmingdale that Pickles is still at the farm, even though he will in fact be dead. And that is our 4 actions for this turn. I think I'm going to stop the first video here. My intention going forward is to hopefully do about 5 turns per video. We're obviously just getting going. We got the game set up, walked you through the board very briefly, did our first turn. Pickles nosing around the dumpsters like crazy, moved off to the farm. Oh, we need to complete our event. We do have a friendly unit at the end of the action phase in the farming space. We will roll a die and increase our supply points by that amount. Now, I have seen in some walkthroughs people rolling 2 dice in this event because it's pickles. I don't know, it just says roll 1 dice and it doesn't call it a forage or a scrounge or anything, so we're just gonna roll 1. And we got 5 more supplies. So I think this is about as pretty of a position as I've been in at the beginning of the game, with 15 supplies and 7 ammo. It's a nice start. So hopefully you've enjoyed what you've seen so far. The game is going to get a lot more exciting. It's going to get a lot more intense. I'm going to have to do a lot of editing as I sit here and just curse at no one, trying to figure out what the hell to do. And look for the next turns coming up.